Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome to the FSX 404 channel. Today we're going to do an approach into Juana Azurduy Airport in Sucre, Bolivia. We're going to do a visual approach onto runway 5. This airport does have a couple of instrument approaches, but the weather really has to be VFR for airplanes to land here, so we're going to do a visual approach onto runway 5. Let's talk a little bit about the airport itself. The airport is located at an elevation of 9,500 feet. It's one of the highest elevation airports in the world that can land jetliners. Altitude alone does not make this airport extreme. The airport is in somewhat mountainous area, does have mountains around it, but what really makes this airport extreme is the area around the runway and the runway itself, both of which present optical illusions. We'll talk about these optical illusions in a little bit, but let's talk about the approach itself first. The visual approach to runway 5 will begin over the Sucre VOR, which is located right at the airport. We'll be approaching it from the northern area. We'll be at the VOR at about 16,000 feet. As we overfly the VOR, we're going to turn to a heading of 180, and at the same time we're going to start a descent. As we're flying a heading of 180 and descending, there's going to be a valley onto our right side. We're going to turn into that valley while keeping the tallest mountain off to our left side. This valley will be our base leg. The altitude we need to be at in the middle of this valley is around 12,000 feet. We will visually turn onto runway 5. As we are rolling out on final, we'll be at 10,500 feet, give or take a little bit. We don't need to be perfect, but we need to be in a position to make a safe landing. This is where things start getting interesting for this approach. And this is where we're going to encounter those visual illusions. The first visual illusion is the sloping ground leading us to the runway. The ground is sloping down, and in a way we are following it. This will give us an illusion that we are not descending very fast, that we're almost flying level. In reality, our rate of descent will be twice as high as a normal descent onto the runway. And our plane will give us warning. We're going to hear sync rate, sync rate. So we have to be very careful. If we don't start reducing that sync rate as we're getting close to the runway, we will fly the plane into the ground. The runway is sloped. It starts off with the upslope for the displaced threshold, then the runway levels off at the touchdown point, and then the runway slopes down. The displaced threshold won't affect us much, but we have to aim for the touchdown point of that runway. This is easy to recognize because that's where all the black touchdown marks are. That is the only place where we can land this plane in order to stop on time. The last illusion of this runway is because of its width. It's only about 95 feet wide. That's a little more than half of a normal runway. A narrow runway gives us the illusion that we are higher than we really are, so we have to be disciplined and listen to the altitude callouts. When we combine this narrow runway with its slopes and the sloped ground approach, we have to be very disciplined or we will fly this plane into the ground. The last thing to remember is that because we have a narrow runway, we have to put this plane on the center line because we don't have much room to make an error of landing to either side of the center line. For this approach, we will use the iFly Boeing 737-700. We will set up a plane just before the Sucre VOR, descending to 16,000 feet. So let's get in the plane and let's fly this approach. Okay guys, we're in the airplane right now. We are flying towards the Sucre VOR. We are descending to 16,000 feet. By the way, this is FS 2004. I do have the LatinVFR scenery for it, and LatinVFR did a pretty good job, and I do recommend it. It's actually pretty cheap. You can actually see even the little quarry off to the side. Alright, we're over the VOR. Let's turn to a heading of 180. We're at 16,000 feet, and we're going to start our descent to 12,000 feet. It's going to be a regular descent. This is going to be between 1,500 to 2,000 feet per minute. Always remember, for airliners, you always want to use that 1,500 to 2,000 feet per minute descent. As we look off to the side, we can see there's the valley that we're going to fly into. I want to apologize to you guys because the hat switch is not working on my yoke, so I have to use a second joystick just for the hat switch. So I got to let go of the yoke and go to the joystick, move the hat switch around. There's some problem with it after I installed the scenery, and I can't find anything on the internet for it. Anyway, also in the distance are those mountains that we're going to keep to our left side. I'm gonna put 10,000 feet just as a reminder of where we need to be on final as we're rolling out on final. Okay, so we're gonna start our turn to enter the valley. Now I know we can't see too much over here, and the scenery, LatinVFR scenery, does cut off a little bit, and you can kind of see where it ends, and that's where the valley begins. So we're just going to keep a 25-30 degree bank turn to enter that valley. Pretty soon those tall mountains are going to start appearing, and we're going to keep those tall mountains off to our left side, remember that. And now you can kind of see the valley beginning. The mountains are straight ahead of us, and we're going to keep turning right into that valley, and you'll see what it looks like as soon as we roll out. Let's keep that turn going. We're descending down. There's the valley, and we're just going to follow the valley down for a while. As we roll out, let's put landing gear down. Auto braking is set on 2. And we are at 12,000 feet, right where we're supposed to be. Off to our right, we can start seeing the runway. It's right at the edge of our screen. Pretty soon we're going to start that turn onto the final, and that's where things start getting interesting on this approach. Alright, let's start that turn.
2,500. 2,500.
Now, as we roll out of this turn, we should be at about 10,500 feet, give or take. Doesn't have to be exact. We just have to be in a position to do a safe landing. Okay, there's the runway. We're lining up with it right now, and we're looking good so far. Now, this is where the illusions are going to start playing tricks on our eyes. Rolling out 10,500, and we are good to go. Okay, now, as we're approaching this hill, that's when the terrain starts sloping down, and that's where we're going to follow the terrain. That's where we're going to get that illusion that we're not descending. But our rate of descent is going to be pretty high.
500. 300.
Okay, we're right over the hill. We're starting to follow it. See, the sink rate is high. It doesn't look like it, but the sink rate is high. Okay, let's start reducing the sink rate. This is a narrow runway. Let's get in the center line.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Center line, reverse thrusters. Okay, now the runway slopes down, and we'll let the airplane do the braking. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.
100, 100.
Sink rate. Pull up. Sink rate.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.